Thinking Tackle is going to continue being all about the thought process behind what we do, so that you can apply it to your own fishing, put more fish in your landing net.
It's early spring, my absolute favourite time of the year. This is a totally new lake for us, so Darrell and I are not rushing to set up. We've got a huge armoury of tactics at our disposal, but it's important to stress that we'll let the carp's activity tell us how we should be fishing for them. As soon as you see the flowers coming up through the grass and the first green leaves on the trees, the carp are awake, and that means they're really catchable. Both of us never set up in the hot swim. We always leave our gear in the car and concentrate all our attention on seeing them show. If this is going to happen, it's going to happen in the first few hours of daylight, so we always get there at first light. We found the carp on the back of the wind in the heat of the morning sun. Fish will often migrate to the east-facing bank overnight to take advantage of the first rays of the sun, especially on calm mornings like this. In spring, single hook baits are a killer tactic, and today it's our first line of attack. With the water still cool, the fish are awake but not starving, so adding bait at the very start can often delay action or stop it altogether. Feeding creates just as much disturbance as casting, so by flicking out 3 singles, we make the absolute most of those early morning shows.
Welcome to a brand new series of Thinking Tackle. Back by popular demand, we are at Phil's Lake in Abingdon in Oxford. I'm here with my old mate Darrell Peck, and as you can see, it's the beginning of spring, an absolutely brilliant time of year to go fishing, and we've got one on. There he is, bit of air in him. The first one of a new series. Get in that net. Come on. Bosh! Got him! Oh man, that's wicked.
This fast-growing mirror is one of 300 fish stocked by Embryo over the last winter. They came from 3 different suppliers, giving this lake an amazingly varied stock.
Thank you, my darling. Off you go to get bigger.
I thought it was a little bit late in the morning, sun beaming hot, and they'd stopped showing, but pinged them out just out where we'd seen a few this morning, and one's picked up this pink pop-up, so it's always nice to get off the mark. Pretty little fish, get in there. I just caught that fish casting towards a pylon just out here. Having caught one, there's probably some more there, so I'm going to get it back out there as soon as possible. This rig's all ready to go. It's got a yellow pop-up on it. Let's get it out there. If I was to give anyone any advice about spring fishing, it would be to always cast a showing fish. It's not always a sign of fish feeding necessarily, but they're happy, you know. A carp that's jumping, he's on the move, he's got no cares in the world, you know. A carp that was scared certainly wouldn't be jumping out of the water. So I always think, you know, it's the tip of an iceberg. There could be 30 or 40 fish out there, all moving through, and if you get one bright one, you know, why would you cast a dark one to a fish in that situation? You know, you want a bright one. Let them know it's there, make them aware of it, give them the option to take it, and more often than not, they will.
Yeah. How big?
Just £10, mate.
Nice. He's going to be wicked. Imagine him when he's 35 pounds. He's all scarred up now.
He's got lovely scaling. He's kiting right round the margins. Hopefully he's going to come back out. Otherwise, I'm going to need to dive and get the waders on because he is right round there. Got a lovely stone on my sock. Go on, put them up. Good. Cheers, mate. Flattering. Sorry, El, mate. Didn't mean to have you down there at my back end. Well, he's a pretty little one. Similar size to the other one, maybe a bit bigger. yellow IB pop-up, Wonderberry goo in the net. Well, if ever there was proof of getting the rod straight back out after catching a fish, then this is that. Hadn't even got the rod back into the rest, was sinking the line when it all shot tight, and we've caught this cracker. He's had a bit of a bashing, he got stuck to a metal pole down there, and we had some dramas, and save him the trauma of coming out on the bank. We'll just have a quick look, get him back, and get those rods sorted, because there might be a few more yet.
Right, I've recast 2 rods closer to the island, but nothing's happened. Sun's high in the sky now, but I'm seeing fish showing on the wind over there, which is no surprise. You know, these fish haven't been in here that long. They're not really pressured by many anglers at the moment, so they're doing what carp should be doing. And they're on the wind. It's a nice warm westerly, the sun's out, so it is time to move.
If your bobbins aren't moving and the fish are showing elsewhere, then you're not on them. Moving is a hassle, but at this time of year, bait and weight tactics are not the one. So we go with a mindset that we'll be lapping the lake, chasing the fish around.
With Dan having moved and clear activity on the other side, I was getting itchy feet here.
Well, the move has paid off. I mean, I've not even got the 3rd rod out. Took loads of line on the first take, only hooked it 20 yards out. Just keeping the rod low, I'm watching the angle of the line. This fish is just coming more and more round in front of me now. Yes. Location, location, location. Get in that net. Boom! Yeah, come on. Oh, that's wicked.
I rarely celebrate a capture immediately. Bite times can be short, so priority number 1 is having 3 rods back on the money, and then you can get the prize out and do the photos. Now I've had bites, I'm introducing just 50 baits over all 3 rods, as the fish do seem in a feeding mood. With just a few freebies scattered on the bottom, there's every chance I'll keep the fish in front of me for that little bit longer.
Well, check that one out. Look at him, little heart-shaped tail, little withered fins. Looks like an original fish. There definitely were some left in here, and with a nude patch on the side of it as well, this could well be an original, which will be an absolute result. Mwah.
The naked chod presentation is a rig that I've used a lot over the years. You may have seen me use it in Masterclass 4, and it's a brilliant rig for presenting pop-ups over relatively unknown ground. You know, here today we're at a lake that I'd never seen before I arrived, and it's spring, you know, the fish are mobile. You haven't got much weed in the lake, and it's a great rig for presenting pop-ups just over relatively clean ground. You know, you have to be able to feel it down, and you have to be able to know that the weed isn't more than say 4 to 6 inches off the bottom. But anything more clear than that, whether it be gravel, silt, mud, you know, that pop-up is always going to come to rest on top of any minor debris be sitting pretty available to the carp to see. I set the hook section roughly 1 inch long, and the reason for that is I don't want the pop-up too far off the bottom. I want it to be aware of it and for it to rest on top of debris, but I don't want it to look too alien and too far off the bottom that it's definitely the hook bait. You know, so it's visible, but it's not overly visible, you know, it's not turning them off. And the bead positioning for this rig is quite important, especially when you're fishing it naked. The bottom bead is positioned to stop the hook hitting the lead during the retrieve, and also to stop the hook and the bait being too close to the lead on the bottom. You know, I like it to be a little bit, probably 4 to 6 inches away from the lead minimum, because otherwise it's all sort of looks a bit obvious and cumbersome. The top bead though, that is the really important one. That sets the distance, the maximum distance that the bait can be from the lead, and that affects how much weed it can sit over, how much debris it can sit over, but also how quickly it impacts the lead. You know, the fish is going to come in, see the bait, hopefully take the bait, and if your top bead is 2-3 foot up the line, then it's got a lot of slack line to play with before it impacts the lead, and that is the bit where it gets hooked. So I would recommend you somewhere between 12 and 18 inches from the lead with the top bead, and that will just allow the rig to nestle on top of the weed, like I said, but also to hook the fish really quickly. And one other thing worth bearing in mind is the curve of the chod rig. We all use different lengths and different sizes and different levels of aggressiveness in the curve, but if you're fishing them short like I do with 1 inch of material, then a very slight curve more towards the swivel end than the hook, and that will allow the rig to turn over in the fish's lip and catch it as soon as it impacts the lead. That's the important bit, but the next thing to consider is keeping it on the end. I've found from past experience, when using light leads, you don't suffer any hook pulls. But when using big leads, 3-4 ounces, you've got a really short hook link on and a big heavy weight jumping around close to that hook hold, it can fall out. Fortunately, we can get around that now with a heli-safe. It enables us to drop the lead every single time and land everything we hook. Right, gonna have a quick wind in, quick pack up. There's a swim directly opposite me, the wind's trickling in there. I've seen half a dozen show over there, probably many, many more because it's quite a long way, it's probably 300 metres away, and if I can see them from here, I'm probably only seeing the tip of the iceberg.
We all know that location is the single most important thing in carp fishing, and to ignore that would be absolutely criminal. They're over there, I need to be over there and get those rods underneath them. Right now.
A couple of fish been shown at those poplar trees in the corner, and I was questioning why it hasn't or why it hasn't gone yet, but it just has, and this feels a lot bigger than what we've caught so far. It's a mirror. Mate, that is a pucker fish. I reckon that's an original. You want to see the scales on it? Oh. Come on, mate. Come on. Come on. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Come on, a bit more. Oh. Look at that.
Oh yeah, go on.
I just had the right hand rod's just gone off and I had quite a battle, straight away. I knew it wasn't a small one, but again, I think a little bit like the last one you've had, possibly an original, a mirror, small fins, a little scale on its side, peachy coloured, probably, I'm going to say, at least 25.
Yeah, man. All right, I'll come over. We'll do the pictures in a minute, yeah?
Okay, mate, perfect.
Right, what's your guess, brother?
32, 33.
32 and a half.
Spot on.
Mate, if that's an original, that is such a result, man.
Yeah, mate.
We came here not really expecting to catch anything of real size. We had no knowledge of what swam here, other than the stockies obviously, and to be catching an original 30 on the first day, well, that's an absolute result.
My overwhelming sort of feeling for the start of the session is being so proud that we've taken the lake on, got a fence around it and protected the fish. And with those two, complete surprises with that £25 common that I had and Darrell's, amazing £32 mirror, they're almost certainly both original fish, which with the ones we've stocked in here are now safe forever. And it just gives me just a warm feeling inside that this place is now protected and is going to be somewhere really special for the future. We'll get a good night's kip, regroup and get at them in the morning. First light is such a magical time to be up. So many people are rushing around going to work. They don't notice all these things that we get to see, and all the trees are bright green and the blossoms coming out and stuff like that. Daffodils are out. And it's just a great place to be, and it's half the reason we go carp fishing is to be out in the countryside. So to be sitting here now looking at fish showing is pretty special. We've opted not to fish last night. Springtime doesn't seem to be a brilliant time for night fishing, and by not having rods in the water it makes us more versatile, more able to move quickly, and as it's turned out the fish are here, so I've not had to move, and just flicking 3 rods out amongst them, you know, should bring a bite today. Just trying to edge away from these trees. Come on, fella. In you come. It's caught round an old line that's out there. Come on. Come on. Bosh, got him. Yes.
After 2 quick bites, it's obvious these fish are loving the pink almond hook baits.
This has been out there about 15 minutes maximum. I decided after that last fish to get this rod repositioned and come off of the yellow mystic spice hook baits, which is my normal favourite, because I'd had lots of bites on the pink almond. I thought I'd be able to put another pink type of hook bait on, and this is the Squid Supreme, which the bait's got a sort of orangey colour, but I just wanted to see if that reddy pinky colour was working better than the yellow, and this sort of proves that they definitely like it on here. On places where you get plenty of bites, you can experiment like this, and at certain times of the year they prefer certain smells and certain colours, and at the moment pink or red does seem to be ruling. Really having to move around the swim a lot with these fish. They're charging around and I'm having to basically guide them away from the marginal snags. Come on, mate, in you come. In you come. Oh, you are nailed. Get in that net. Bosh, yes.
Picked up a little bit of weed, fresh weed off the bottom. Sometimes in spring that can be a really good sign. Fresh weed, lots of natural life in it, bugs and stuff. So it's definitely a likely spot to change the bait and get it out there.
Middle rod again. It's staying to the right now, which is good. Oh, and wind's really getting up now. This is a westerly banging straight in here. Oh, proper hairy in these swims with overhanging trees both sides. These are epic battles. It's right down here. Oh, it's a nice fish. Just thinking about keeping it away from the other lines now, if I can. Oh, it's a lovely linear. Come on, mate. In you come. Get in that net. Bosh! Get in!
Go on. God, there's super snaggies down there. Sorry, guys. It's very angry. It's only a 15-pounder. Two fish have just shown while I'm playing this in. One right over the left-hand rod and one fairly close to the middle rod. So it appears the fish are following the wind. Certainly a few about. Here we go, hang on, this one's coming in. It's caught on the other line. Oh, just. Come in, Dan, come in.
Go ahead, brother.
Hello, mate. I've just had one, 20-pound linear, it looks like. Really nice fish, but considering the amount of activity around here and the liners are getting, I'm not sure what's going on. Definitely think I should be catching more.
Right, well, I was thinking that myself, but I've just had a 23-pound linear myself. So, do you reckon your one's an original or a new one?
Just looking at it, it looks fairly old. I've not had it out on the mat yet, but if it is an original and your one is, then that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, no, my one's definitely not an original. It's a stocky. You can see it just looks brand new. But mate, if I come down and do your pictures and then you come down and do mine, I'm going to leave my rod out of the water for a little while.
Roger that, mate. I'll see you in 5 minutes, yeah?
What an absolute peach of a carp. This is why anglers travel from all over the country to fish in Oxford. Every original is a complete surprise to us, and this one at just over 21 pounds is set to grow bigger and be one of the lake's target fish when the syndicate opens later this year. This one had clearly been eating the fibre freebies I've been putting in, which tells me I need to put more bait in after every bite.
Well, I've not caught any more. There's still fish topping. The liners have stopped since I've come in a bit closer, which would indicate either I've come too short or the fish are up in the water. I would suggest they're probably up in the water. It's quite deep out here, maybe 9 to 10 foot deep. And quite often at this time of year, the upper layers are warming up with the spring sunshine. And maybe they are, maybe they're just below the surface. So I'm going to try a zig rig. Usually going to use a bit of black foam. I don't know if it mimics anything natural within their world, but it's certainly a good starting point.
Zig fishing is a very underused method, primarily because people just can't get their head around it. But at the right time, in the right situation, they certainly catch you fish that you wouldn't have caught using standard tactics. During Masterclass 5, I started off like most, and it was only towards the end of the second trip that I realised I needed to be up in the water.
Well, I dropped a fish earlier on, and basically I'm dumping the lead, and I think the fish has not really got any resistance. The lead's coming off too easily, and that's what bumped the fish off, because the hook was still perfectly sharp. So I've basically put back leads on all the rods to try and keep a much tighter line. And although this one didn't roar off, the line stayed tight, and so far it's still on. The other advantage of the back leads is it does keep your line away. The two lines that are still fishing, it keeps them away from the fish on the end. This one's only been out there a little while, and it's worked. So it's blowing a lovely westerly now. Bit of sun out, sun and wind together is a great combination any time of the year, but especially now. Looks like a better one. Get in that net. Bosh, wicked. This chunky common went £21. Awesome looking creature it is. And this is one of the ones that was stocked in February this year. And we would expect this one to probably be £25, £26 by Christmas this year. And who knows what the potential of this fish is. It could go £45 eventually, but lovely little heart-shaped tail. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous creature. Give you a kissy, there you go. Mwah. Get in. Come on. Yes.
Well, location, certainly proving its worth here. I've only just moved, not had the rods out long at all, quite a few fish topping. We were up there hours with nothing happening, and like I say, a few minutes here and we're into one. Looks like one of the Harrow stockies, just scales along its back, fairly plain flanked mirror, quite pronounced different colours between the top and the bottom half. Boom, get in there, come on! Little moves paid off. Lovely. Well, it's crazy how our day can be up and down. Fish straight away this morning and then long period of nothing while Danny caught them. And I think in hindsight, rather than going up in the water, should have moved. You know, the fish have obviously come this way. Danny was catching to his right, lots of fish topping out here. I've had a couple really quickly and there is loads of fish out here and I'm sure there's going to be a couple more. Just goes to show, move, get on the fish, right ones in the right spot at this time of year and it's all pretty straightforward. Lovely scaly little fish. In my net, boom! Look at that.
It's been a proper hectic second day here. The fish were showing out longer when we got up this morning. We weren't fishing, so we were able to cast the single hook baits out to where they were showing, and I got a few bites straight away. Every fish has been an absolute stunner, and then the wind really picked up, and then later on the fish came in much, much closer, and I repositioned all my rods closer in, sprinkled out a little bit of bait, and to be honest, I thought I'd ruined it. Nothing happened for a little while, and then it just went crazy. The fish obviously must have got on the free offerings that I put out there, and the bites were coming thick and fast. So I'm going to put a little bit more bait out now, try and keep the fish in the area. If the fish are in a different place tomorrow morning, maybe we'll have to have a rethink. But for now, I would say today is mission accomplished. Good morning. One of life's great luxuries, cup of tea in the morning when you're fishing. It's flat calm when the sun came up today and the fish were showing on the far side of the lake. The sun was beating over there and the fish are probably there to take advantage of the warmth of the sun. But the wind is now blowing back over here. If I'd blanked so far, I probably would have moved straight over there, but the fact I've had a few and the weather's going to be the same as it was yesterday would suggest the fish are going to come back over here. So I put some bait out last night, used the marker float, so I had something to aim at basically. All the rods are clipped up at the same distance now, baits are on, and as soon as the fish start showing on this side, the rods are going to go back out. Oh, hello.
People always say to me, like, what am I looking for when I first arrive to a lake? And it's always fish, whether you know the lake or not. You're walking around looking for factual, actual signs, you know, fish topping. Ideally, you'll see them crashing out the water. And many times a year they do this, particularly in the mornings, you know. The morning's a great time to see fish. But if you're not seeing them jumping out, there's other signs you can be looking for. You could see fish cruising just below the surface, you know, black shapes. You could see them swimming along the margins near the reeds. You could see them bubbling. But always, always looking for actual physical signs. If you can't see physical signs, then I generally pick a big open water swim, a room with a view as such. If you've got a lot of water in front of you and a lot of scope to be looking, you know, you can put your rods out with the aim being, yeah, I'll start here, but if I see them somewhere else, I'm ready to move. And I'm always trying to put my rigs underneath fish.
Oh yeah, this one's going crazy out bonkers, mate. It's going to be some place, mate, in years to come, isn't it? Yeah. When these are all big, you know, like proper big.
Yeah, you give them 5 years, put a few battle scars on them and double in
About
size.
10 pounds, yeah. In the net you come. What about that? Just nearly had the rod dragged in. I only just cast it out here. Don't think these boots are waterproof up to my knees. Oh, it's a nice one. Come on you booty man. Yes, bosh. Oh, worth getting wet for. The rig I've used for this entire session is my favourite pop-up rig. It's called the spinner rig and it suits springtime so well because the fish have just woken up, you know, they're cold-blooded, so they're moving around a bit slower at the moment because the water's colder. Their eyesight's not as good in cold water as well, so a little tiny bright pop-up close to the bottom with a really aggressive rig like this really suits the situation. It's had loads of press. It's called the Ronnie rig as well. And basically it all centres around a quick change ring swivel. So the hook is effectively clipped onto a quick change ring swivel rather than being tied on. The thing people get wrong with it the most is crimping. So basically we're crimping a very stiff fluorocarbon material called boom. And the one I'm using is 25-pound breaking strain. It's 0.55 diameter, so it's really thick, really robust. And basically you put it through one of our double barrel crimps, then through the quick change ring swivel, then back through the other side of the crimp, and then you have to line the crimp up in the jaws of the crimp tool so it's parallel to them. So one barrel is in one side of the jaws and the other barrel is in the other side of the jaws, and just squeeze it tight, that's it. And if you get it right, it will go 25, 28, maybe even 30 pounds, certainly stronger than a knot. I'll crimp a size 11 ring swivel onto the other end because I'm using a helicopter rig in this situation. So I didn't know what I was going to be casting onto. A helicopter rig's so versatile because you can move that top bead up further away from the lead. So when you cast out, it flies up and hits that bead, and the lead can basically penetrate into the bottom or into the weed if there is any weed, and leaving the hook link sitting on top. So the boom material is only short. I started off on this session with probably 4-inch booms. I've now gone down to 2-inch booms. And since I've made that change, the hook holds have been absolutely banging. So I'm basically opening up that quick change ring swivel with a really sharp knife and then sliding the hook on. I'm using a size 4 wide gate, one of the captors. I'm basically bending the eye inwards a little bit more to help it flip and catch hold even better. Basically I'm slipping a kicker over the top of that to cover up the join between the two, so you don't need any shrink tube, don't need to use the kettle or anything. Cut a little bit off of that large kicker and slide it on the wrong way round so it goes on the thickest end first onto the hook, and it just looks so neat when it's on there. Then the bait goes on. I'm using a little tiny micro ring swivel and I'm tying the bait onto that. So a couple of bits of floss go through the ring swivel and then basically pull them through the bait and tie a series of granny knots around a hair stop and cut it nice and close. And then basically to stop all of that coming off the hook, I use a little tiny hook bead, and my tip on that is to basically keep it on the sprue, put the point of the hook through the hook bead, get it so it's coming out the other side of the hook bead, and then it will naturally break off the sprue, and then you can slide it round onto the hook. And where it goes on the hook is really important. I like to fish them up really high, and I think what that does is makes the hook flip and turn and catch hold even faster than normal. Now the whole thing is basically fished just off the bottom, so basically the length of the hook off the bottom. I put a bit of putty around that crimp that's on the quick change ring swivel, and I like them to sink pretty fast. I don't want them to be wafting up off the bottom, so when the fish basically come in they don't move around, and I think the fish are so close to them when they take them, you can get away with a really short hook link, and because the hook flips and catches hold so fast, you know, you don't need something that's 6, 8, 10 inches long to absolutely nail them. So if you want a really effective hooker of fish and one that you can cast absolutely anywhere, that is what I recommend for my spring fishing. My bivvy of choice for this session, and pretty much every session to be honest, is a Tempest V2. I've been using them since they came out 3 or 4 years ago, and just does everything that I want it to do. It's very, very lightweight. I never use the ground sheet, even in the winter. Just use a tensioning strap to give it its shape. I keep the front on it most of the time. In the summer, that's to keep the mozzies out. In the winter, obviously, that's to keep the elements out. And it just goes up in seconds. I watched Darrell using them in Belgium a couple of years ago when we were fishing on masterclass, and just the speed he was setting up and packing away was just phenomenal. And I went over from a Trident bivvy, which is one of the Pram Hood styles, to the Tempest, and I've never looked back, to be honest. Having the vents in the back of it as well is a major edge in the summertime. When it gets really hot, that can reduce the temperature by up to 10 degrees. So if you're looking for something that's super versatile, you can fish with it anywhere in the world, and it's more than big enough for one man, it's a Tempest V2. I've chosen my 12-foot 3 3/4 Infinities, the new X45s. Didn't really know what was going to be presented to us here. Might have been fishing at 120 yards, we might have been under our feet, and those rods will do it all. Coupled with them, you've got the Bezier reels, my favourite reel of all time. They're loaded with 15-pound touchdown. That's 040 diameter, so it's quite a thick line. Again, we didn't know how many snags there would be out there, and that has saved me a couple of times with fish charging down the margins. You know, I can cast that probably up to 120 yards with accuracy, and the whole lot is sitting on top of the single system. You know, super sexy, super cool, but most importantly, really, really stable. And we wanted to make a system that looked like single bank sticks, but was much easier to get perfectly spaced. And once it's in the ground, it's super solid. That's fished in conjunction with the Delkim TXIs. I've used them probably the last 20 odd years, and I can't see myself using anything different. So that's the hardware I'm using on this session. I'll probably use it for 90% of my fishing.
For this session, I'm using my Longbow X45s in 3 3/4 test curve. I use these for 90% of my fishing. They're a very good rod for general purpose, you know, 0 to 120 yards. A lot of people think that it's a really heavy test curve to be using for general fishing, but I like to have that power in reserve. You know, you don't know if you're going to be coming up against weed, snags, having to cast far. It's just my general setup. These are coupled with Daiwa Bezier reels, extremely lightweight, excellent clutch, and amazing line lay. Speaking of the line, I'm using fluorocarbon, the contour in 12-pound. It sinks like a brick and suits a naked chod perfectly.
I think they've got quite predictable now, mate, don't you? The afternoons are definitely out in front of here.
Yeah, mate, they've been properly having it. You've had quite a few, haven't you?
Yeah, it's been good. I think putting that bait in, you know, not fishing at night, putting the bait in. I've been lucky that the wind's been coming in this way the whole time, so I've not really had to go anywhere else where, you know, you've had to bob up and down at either side of me really to keep on them.
Yeah, standard spring tactics is to chase them around and fire bright pop-ups, but once you've established a bit of a pattern of what they're doing, like you have, you've been able to put bait out and get them searching for you rather than like chasing them like I've been.
Yeah, that's your standard spring tactic, brother, isn't it? Chasing them around.
Yeah, I like
the human dynamo.
Yeah, no, I like chasing them, but sometimes you can be a busy fool and you can make them come to you, obviously.
I might have caught a few more, but I think you've had the best two, brother.
Yeah, the couple of originals were absolute bangers.
Yeah, imagine like when proper bait goes in here and like they start whacking it on with all them stockies as well. It's going to be some place, isn't it?
Certainly, like all of those stockies are like shiny pennies. They're covered in scales. They're only 5 minutes old. They've only been in here a little while. Give them 5 years, a little bit of age, a little bit of bait. They're going to be really, really special.
Yeah, I can't wait to see what it does. How long it'll take to do its first 40, you know?
Not long by the look of those harrows in the pictures that you showed me, not long at all.
Right, so going on the list then, bruv, yeah?
Top of the list, obviously.